Loretta Lynn has been called the greatest female singer-songwriter of the 20th century. But Loretta is most comfortable with a much simpler title, Coal Miner's Daughter.
Yeah, I'm proud to be a coal miner's daughter.
But there's nothing really simple about Loretta, as we discovered when we spent some time with her.
Don't ever come in on me while I'm writing a song, because I'm not myself. I'm the person that I'm writing about. You've got to do that. You've got to be the person to write it.
She started out life in a coal miner's cabin.
Yeah, that was the greatest house in Butcher Holler.
And ended up living in a Civil War mansion. And whether she's shooting a music video in Memphis, or winning a pair of well-deserved Grammy Awards in Los Angeles.
We never dreamed we'd get a Grammy, did we?
No, ma'am.
When you're looking at Loretta Lynn, you most certainly are looking at country.
And I'd fix chicken and dumplings and made bread.
Yeah.
And he left there with a loaf of homemade bread and a stick of butter. He said, "This is the best bread I've ever eaten in my life."
She makes real music. She writes lyrics that are about real things. And in the end, that wins out over everything.
You better close your face and stay out of the way if you don't want to go to this city.
I'm Mike Wallace. 60 Minutes Uncut with Loretta Lynn. Listen, we've been kissing enough tonight.
I know.
Are you contagious?
I know.
Including footage and outtakes you've never seen before. Those jeans look very good, Loretta. Right now.
You do too.
On CMT.
I think he's handsome. I do. I've told everybody.
Born dirt poor in Butcher Holler, Kentucky 70 years ago, Loretta Lynn was married at the age of 13 to a man who fathered 4 kids with her by the time she was 18. And then he managed her career into Nashville stardom, beating her up occasionally and cheating on her more often along the way.
You never take me anywhere because you're always gone.
A lot of us will remember these highlights of Loretta Lynn's early years from the Oscar-winning movie Coal Miner's Daughter. She's had a stunning career, 55 top 10 hits and 27 number ones.
Close your face and stay out of the way if you don't want to go to this city.
At her peak, she played 200 shows a year. And as we discovered recently, if you want to find the still reigning queen of country music, her big pink tour bus is the best place to look.
Is Mike here? There he is.
Damn right he's here.
Woo. You're the one I'm waiting for.
What do you say? Good looking. How about, oh, not on the mouth, huh?
Well, wherever.
Oh.
The Coal Miner's Daughter is back in the headlines again. She's got 2 brand new Grammys for her brand new album, Lear Rose, that debuted at number 24 on the Billboard pop charts, just ahead of Janet Jackson.
Look what I saw.
But not all the recent reports have been good news. This picture, Loretta Lynn battles deadly illness, rushed to hospital, cancels concerts.
Now, you know I wouldn't have been out there singing if I was dead.
A touch of double pneumonia cannot stop Loretta Lynn. But talking to 60 Minutes worried her a lot.
People tell me you're scared.
Yeah, you're the one I'm afraid of.
Well, you know something? I know so much about your past.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah. So we're going to straighten people out about it. I mean, so many people have tried to figure you out, Loretta.
Oh, really?
Sure.
Why didn't they just ask me?
So we did.
No.
Why do you keep working?
I like it. I'm a worker. If I was home, I would be in the garden.
Let's not talk about the garden for a minute.
Okay.
I'm trying to find out about the compulsive performing. You like this, the sense of pleasing people, applause?
Well, I hope I please the people, but I don't have to work, but I love to work, and I'm just not lazy. I can't sit down.
I hate to be married to you.
Why?
Because I mean you're.
Well, you are too.
Damn right.
Well, there you go. 2 peas in the pot.
That's true.
America's sweetheart, Miss Loretta Lynn.
70 years old and no sign of slowing down. It's easy to see what Loretta loves most, singing about the ups and downs of her colorful life.
Well, I was born a coal miner's daughter in a cabin on a hill in Butcher Holler. We were poor
sure we had love. That's the one thing that Daddy made sure of. He shoveled coal to make a poor man's dollar. This is a house we thought was a mansion.
The way Loretta tells it, there were only 3 job options in Butcher Hollow, Kentucky: moonshine, the coal mine, or moving on down the line.
This was a mansion?
I thought so.
Let's take a look.
Like the song says, her father chose the coal mine.
There's a lot of room in here.
Well, for 10, it gets pretty close.
She had 7 brothers and sisters.
We only had 2 beds.
It was a hard life for all of them. No indoor plumbing, no electricity, and never enough heat.
And up here...
This is how our house was papered.
This is for insulation, is that it?
Well, yeah, so the snow would fly in, and sometimes it would get through no matter what.
Some members of Loretta's family made her life even harder than it had to be.
Your granddad told you you were not pretty?
Yeah, that stuck with me all my life. So I never did think I was pretty.
Are you pretty now?
I do the best I can do.
Loretta, you're a pretty girl.
Well, thank you.
You're
Annie.
better
I
than a pretty
appreciate
girl.
that.
You're a beautiful girl.
I appreciate you telling me that.
It was here in this cold, cramped cabin that Loretta learned to sing.
Mommy set me on her old sewing machine. That's where she taught me how to sing.
Taught you how to sing? What are you talking about?
She would learn me little songs, and she'd set me up on the sewing machine and let me go through the motions like, oh, where are you going, my pretty bird? I am going to the woods, I am going, you know, all little actions and everything.
So that's when you began to sing?
Uh-huh, just when I was a little girl.
Loretta's life is full of surprising twists and turns, and the latest is a doozy. Who could have predicted that a 70-year-old semi-retired great-grandmother from Butcher Hollow, Kentucky, would get together with a 20-something guitar-slinging Detroit punk rocker named Jack White and put out the Grammy-winning Best Country Album of the Year?
Hey, bartender, before you close, pour us one more drink and a picture to go.
This unlikely marriage has brought Loretta a brand new audience.
MTV News.
When was the last time a 70-year-old great-grandmother got a video spun on MTV?
And the song.
Jack White.
Jack White, he's a hardcore rock and roller.
And I was amazed when all of a sudden the two of you hit it off.
But you know what? He's a little old country boy from Detroit.
A little old country boy from Detroit.
Yeah, and how much he made on his last record, we'll not even go over that, because he could buy new Detroit probably.
Maybe not buy it outright, but total record sales of around 7 million would provide a respectable down payment. So how did Jack White, voted one of the top 20 guitarists of all time by Rolling Stone magazine, how did he get together with Down Home Loretta? It happened by chance. Jack and his partner Meg had just finished recording a new album in Memphis. They were driving home and...
We saw a sign that said Loretta Lynn's Dude Ranch. We drove into the property and we saw the house. We couldn't believe it. Like, that's where she lives.
So the White Stripes dedicated their next album to Loretta Lynn. By way of thanks, Loretta invited the Stripes over for dinner.
Boy, I had him and Meg down to eat with me. And I'd fix chicken and dumplings and made homemade bread.
Yeah.
And he left there with a loaf of homemade bread and a stick of butter. He said, this is the best bread I've ever eaten in my life.
The best bread you've ever had in your life, let me tell you. Get a recipe if you can.
That loaf of bread opened the door to their touring and recording together.
We have a really good relationship. It's really good the way we connect to each other. It's kind of that feeling, you know, when you meet somebody and you just kind of feel like you've known them forever.
As you can see, the feeling is mutual.
I love you, baby.
Me too.
This is my baby.
Loretta opened her heart and her home to young Jack, which is how Jack White came upon a treasure trove of never-recorded Loretta Lynn songs.
I was wandering around her house looking for something to steal, take home when she wasn't looking. She caught me looking through these old songbooks. I'd pick one up, I'd just like this one like that, and notebook like that, and I'd go like this and say, what's that, Loretta? And she said, one of my fondest memories. Like
that song Jack found in her notebook became the title track of her new CD, Lear Rose, a song that she had written about a mother, a beauty from the town of Lear, Kentucky.
Lear Rose. That's her?
I wrote it about my mommy. Yeah, I wrote it about my mommy. Yeah.
Give me some of the lyrics of Van Lear Rose.
One of my fondest memories was sitting on my daddy's knee, listening to the stories that he told. He'd pull out that old photograph like a treasured memory from the past and say, child, this year's the Van Lear Rose.
Oh.
She was the belle of Johnson County, from Ohio River to Big Sandy, a beauty to behold, like a diamond in the coal. All the miners, they would gather around, talk about the man that came to town, right under their nose, stole the heart of the Van Lear Rose.
Ah.
She was, I'll have to say my mommy was a rose.
Loretta's life not only inspired her songs, it also inspired Jack White. When we come back, he'll tell us how.
Loretta Lynn Uncut 60-minute special is brought to you by Rice-A-Roni.
World's fastest wedding chapel, over 1 billion wed.
One lifetime of bliss combo.
Anything else?
One side of organ music.
I do. That'd be hot. Yeah.
I do.
Usually good and fast don't go together. Until now. New Rice-A-Roni Express. 90 seconds from pouch to plate. It's really good, really fast.
Got any cash?
No.
Rice-A-Roni Express. Good and fast.
View Boxing presents.
You thought that I'd be waiting up when you came home last night. You'd been out with all the boys and you ended up
Loretta Lynn, the once and future queen of country music, has influenced many musicians in her long career.
And don't come home a drinker with loving on your mind.
But none as profoundly as Jack White of the White Stripes. He says that seeing the film Coal Miner's Daughter as a boy made him want to become a musician too.
How old are you now?
29.
And you were 6 years old when you saw
Coal Miner's Daughter, that's right.
And
I fell in love immediately, somehow that young.
a 6-year-old.
I don't know how that happened, but it did. Something about it was, I think, really American to me or something at the time. I think I was really proud that that was a place that was in America that that could exist. You know.
Yeah, but you're from Detroit.
Maybe there's enough coal dust in the air in Detroit.
His life, he told me, could have turned out way different.
I don't know how that happened. I got accepted to a seminary in Wisconsin, and I was going to become a priest, but the last second I thought, I'll just go to public school.
What drove you from the church?
I had just gotten a new amplifier in my bedroom, and I didn't think I was allowed to take it with me.
I was born to coal miner's daughter.
Coal Miner's Daughter, released back in 1980, showed that Loretta's road to the top had a lot of hard turns. The first, when Loretta met 21-year-old Doolittle Lynn. She was just 13.
I'm gonna kiss you goodnight. Ain't you ever been kissed before? Huh?
And he kissed me. Well, I'd never been kissed before.
1 month later, they were married, but the honeymoon was an ugly affair.
He had taken you to bed?
Yeah.
And did you know what you were doing when that happened?
No, I had no idea what was going on. I know one thing, I didn't like what was going on. You know, smacked me and hit me bloody noses and blue eyes and stuff like that.
Well, hell, I'm sorry, Loretta, but you drove me.
I'm telling you things that's never been told before. Lord have mercy. I mean, not face to face.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what happened.
Loretta and Dew moved from Kentucky to Washington State. Settled down, and one night, Loretta first told the story on CBS back in 1975.
And I'd sang to the top of my voice. So he come in one day and he says, well, I think I've been listening to music, and I think you're just as good a singer as, or better than some of the girl singers that's out making money. He says, this is what we're going to try.
So Doolittle Lynn went out and bought his young wife a $17 Sears Roebuck guitar.
Well, you know, Loretta's a real talented person, and I doubt if you could have held her back, you know, but I'm glad that she gives me a credit for helping her in her career, and I've tried real hard, you know, not knowing anything about that business.
Not knowing anything about that business meant that in 1960, Dew and Loretta piled into their old Mercury and they hit the road, driving from one radio station to another coast to coast, personally peddling her records to DJs and refusing to take no for an answer.
Dew was really the pusher to get me to do something. He'd have to push me on stage. I was so bashful.
She was a great songwriter and kept working at it and driving around and giving her records to radio stations, and then, you know, it's real. That's the way it's supposed to happen. Not that you meet some manager or lawyer at a bar in L.A. and he's got a friend who works at the movie studio and all of a sudden you're a star and famous for no reason. You know?
It was a business plan, a battle plan, that eventually worked.
When did you decide that you should be writing all your own songs?
I thought you have to write to sing, you know. I thought everybody that sang wrote their songs. So the first song I ever wrote was #1. It was Honky Tonk Girl.
This Loretta Lynn! And by 1967, she had reached the top of the music charts. And she and Du went out and bought a Civil War mansion with her money.
You know, this good-looking house.
But I always loved that old house. And
they had 2 more children and filled that old house with gold records and souvenirs of her travels.
This you?
Yep.
How long ago?
Oh, that's when I first started singing.
Loretta's fame brought commercial endorsements.
Is this the kitchen where you did the Crisco commercials?
And cameras into her kitchen.
Yep. This is where I did my Crisco commercial.
Surprise!
Hi.
Hi, kid. You just missed supper.
But you're in time for dessert.
It's Crisco that makes a crust so flaky, even on the bottom.
Son, you'll never taste anything better than your grandma's Crisco cooking.
Unless he marries a Crisco cook, right?
Life was good. At least it seemed that way.
But you know something? I've never got to live here. Maybe 3 or 4 days at a time, and that'd be it.
Because?
Because I was on the road.
It pained her that life on the road kept her from her children, but it was also a way to get away from Du, who'd taken to drinking hard and living even harder.
Du was a real good man, to tell you the truth. He was a good hard worker, had a real good heart on him. He was a good man. He just had that little thing about me, you know, that would set him off.
You write from your heart?
Yes, I write whatever is bothering me at the time, and nobody believes that. They said, Loretta, you're going to get in trouble one day because Du's going to understand that you're writing about him. I said,
When we come back, we'll find out just what song she wrote about her life with Du and what kind of trouble it brought her.
I took off more than half of the bus because this is my home and I'll do as I please.
Life on the road was hard on Loretta.
And I'll be out there next month.
But being at home with her husband, Du, wasn't easy either.
Doolittle took that picture out in Washington and developed it.
Really?
I was 26 years old there.
She couldn't live with him. She couldn't live without him either.
This is my bed.
This is your bed?
There's only room for one there.
Well, we haven't got it all pulled out now.
But despite their troubles, Loretta stood by her man.
There's your fella.
Yeah, there's Du.
What in the world persuaded her to stay with Du?
I think something funny she always says about Tammy Wynette. You know, Tammy Wynette has a song, Stand By Your Man, and Loretta's always saying to leave your man, you know. And they were the opposite. That her and Tammy used to say to each other, you know, you should record my songs and I should record yours.
What'd you write, particularly with Du in mind?
Well, I wrote Don't Come Home a Drinking, Was Loving on Your Mind.
You'd been out with all the boys and you ended up half-tied. Liquor and love, they just don't mix, leave the bottle or me behind. And don't come home a drinking with loving on your mind.
That reality-based tune got Loretta her very first gold record. The first gold record any female country singer ever won. To Jack White, it was one more proof of Loretta's amazing talent.
I think that Loretta Lynn is the greatest female singer-songwriter of the 20th century.
Where did that come from?
Who else is more important than her at that time? In the 60s, coming from the South to write songs like Don't Come Home a Drinking, With Love on Your Mind, Fifth City, The Pill, Rated X, over and over again. She was breaking down barriers and walls for women left and right and doing it right under everybody's noses.
Did she have any idea that she was doing that?
No, that's the beauty of Loretta. You think that, you talk to her and you assume that there's no way she could possibly know, you know, how clever and important this certain thing is she's talking about. But then she'll turn around and she'll give you kind of a look in your eye and you kind of think there's a brilliance underneath her.
I'm here to tell you, you gotta lay off my man if you don't want to go to this city.
It was a time when the women's rights movement was just taking off. And Loretta became known to some as the hillbilly feminist.
You're brave enough, and I'll show you what a real woman is, since you think you're hot stuff.
She was writing these songs herself and breaking down walls, that the ultimate feminism, without really coming across that way. People were, it was almost coming across in a novelty sense on one side of it. And it's a great trick. She really tricked people into hearing her opinion about situations like that. And those were the same opinions that women all over America were having.
He don't love me anymore, and I'll have to...
You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man hit the top of the charts back in 1966. Loretta remembers why she wrote the song as if it was yesterday.
You ain't woman enough to take my man.
And I wrote, "You ain't woman enough to take my man," because there was an old gal that didn't live too far from us. Her name was and I hope you're listening, you old bag. She was going with Doolittle. My little girl walked off the bus and, "What y'all laughing about? This is the truth. You can't do nothing about it, can she?"
She never forgets their names either. She was talking about one of them one time. It's like, whatever her name was, Mary Jones. I'll never forget her. She was blah, blah, blah in this one city. And she never forgets them. They're really funny. And sometimes we would be recording these songs and she'd whisper, "This one's about Mary Jones."
But my little girl come off the school bus and says, "Mama," she was crying. I said, "What, honey?" "This old girl is driving a school bus that her and Daddy's in love and they're going to get married." I said, "Oh." I found out who it was. Doolittle was stepping high. He had over at my house telling me that that's all a lie and this, and I could see that she was lying and do too. I just thought, well, they deserve each other. But that was the end of that. Now I want you guys to know one thing. Us girls would never sing a song like that if there wasn't some old girl after you. We want you to know your wife loves you, see? And if she gets a hold of this old gal, she'll kill her. She won't have her hair left in her head. That's how I felt. See, they feel the same way.
Sometimes it seems like Loretta's fighting for equal rights, and sometimes it just seems like she's spoiling for a fight.
I wrote this about an old girl I was fixing to kill. You've been making your brags around town that you've been a lover, my man. But the man I love, when he picks up trash, he puts it in a garbage can. That's what you look like to me. What I see's a pity. You better close your face and stay out of the way if you don't want to go to this city.
When we covered your concert, you made it quite obvious that you still hold a grudge against Doo's old girlfriends.
You bet.
What do you mean?
That's why I still write songs. Well, you know, I still write songs about the old girlfriends, too. And that's good. They're still making me money.
Well,
the old you know.
That's what Fifth City was all about.
You've been making your brags around town that you've been a loving my man. But the man I love, when he picks up trash, he puts it in a garbage can. That's what you look like to me. What I see's a pity. You better close your face and stay out of my way if you don't want to go to Fifth City.
Have you ever taken a fist to a lady?
Well, I have had a few fights over them, yeah.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
If you get the first lick in, you're okay. If you don't get the first lick in, it's not too good.
No, you ain't woman enough to take my man.
What do you think about fidelity in marriage?
I think if you're married, I really believe you ought to be faithful.
You were always faithful to Do.
Well, why not?
No, I'm not asking why or why not. I'm asking you to tell me the truth.
This booger. Well, after Do was doing some of the things he was doing, I threatened him. You know, I said, well, I'm going to go do the same thing. Well, that kind of bothered him, and he started paying a little bit more attention to where he was sending me and who I was with.
Fact is, many of Loretta's most powerful songs were inspired by turbulent times with her husband, Do. As with that new song, Portland, Oregon, about a time when Loretta tried to make her womanizing husband jealous by pretending to have an affair with her guitarist, Cal Smith.
I got Cal. I said, let's go down to the bar and act like we're getting drunk and act like we're lovers. Boy, I've hated that ever since. And we sat down at a little table, just me and Cal. I said, now, Cal, I don't know what you drink. I don't know if you even drink, but I'm going to order something like punch, because I don't drink. And he said, well, slow gin fizz may not be too bad. I said, okay, I'll have one of them. So I drank that slow gin fizz, and I said, I'll have another. After the show, I went in to go to the bathroom, and I seen that shower curtain move a little bit. Scared me to death, so I opened the shower curtain. There dude stood with a quart of whiskey in one hand and a gun pointed right at me. A loaded pistol. And if I'd have been in there with Cal Smith, he'd have killed us both. I said, that's too close for comfort, dude. Don't you ever do this again.
In 1996, Doolittle Lynn's hard-living life finally caught up with him, and Loretta's only husband, her only boyfriend, died of complications from diabetes.
You love him still?
Oh, yeah.
What's to love? What's to love? I mean, seriously, if he...
I think if you love some...
Hold. If he sleeps around, if he's a drunk, if he whacks on you, what's the point of staying together?
Well, I was raised, if you get married, you stay. You don't hop from one man to another.
Du's death hit her hard. She stopped performing and fell into a deep depression.
I was losing it, really.
Losing?
My mind, really, because, when you lose somebody that you've been with 48 years,
Mm-hmm.
And he was not just my husband, he was my dad. He was everything, if I didn't do anything unless I asked him, I didn't dare to.
She turned her loss into a brand new country classic, one of her most moving songs. She calls it Miss Being Mrs.
Here is the female vocalist of all time, Loretta Lynn.
Oh, and how I love them loving arms that once held me so tight. I took off my wedding band and put it on my right hand. I miss being Mrs. tonight. Oh, I miss being Mrs. tonight.
How long since somebody's kissed you?
Well, since Du died.
Really?
Really kissed me to mean anything. Been a long time.
You miss it?
Wouldn't you?
There's no doubt Loretta remains a national treasure. But how is it that country radio and the CMA Awards ignored her new album? We'll have some answers when we come back.
It's out. 1-800-CMA-FEST or online at CMAFest.com or Ticketmaster.com.
You have radiance.
Oh, I miss being Mrs. tonight.
Like Johnny Cash and George Jones before her, Loretta Lynn has seen her record sales and her popularity go up and go down. But when the Country Music Association ignored her new album at the awards ceremony last year, fact is, we were shocked.
This new album you did with Jack White?
Mm-hmm.
It was wonderfully received by the critics. I mean, really acclaimed by the critics.
Even a Rolling Stone magazine.
But not a single Country Music Association nomination. How come?
Well, I think Nashville always felt that I was a little bit corny. I was a little too dumb, a little too country, I think.
Too country?
Well, I
think
Nashville? That's what they think.
I took off my wedding band.
If you think that's crazy, listen to this. Country radio, obsessed with youth and beauty, won't give her new album the time of day.
But it's not because she's controversial, it's because she's old. And country radio won't play the record. And I'm talking to people at the label and her management. I said, what's going on? Why isn't country radio playing this? And they're playing Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy 20 times a day, and they can't play Miss Being Mrs. or Portland, Oregon once a day for Loretta Lynn. For goodness sake, I mean, they don't respect their elders. why is that happening? Why is that happening that this legend can make such a great achievement and country radio can ignore it and the CMAs can ignore it?
You think she's hurt by it?
You know, I thought today when I was coming here, I thought if somebody was on a TV show, like maybe a female anchor person or something, that they got too old and they were told, like, you're not pretty anymore, you're too old to do this job, they'd sue, you know?
Yeah.
Who's Loretta going to sue when the country radio tells her she's too old to play her music? You know?
She still is pretty.
She's really still gorgeous. Yeah, you don't convince me.
One crowd you'll never have to convince of Loretta Lynn's greatness are her fellow musicians.
I'd like to introduce a woman that I think is the greatest female singer-songwriter of the 20th century, Miss Loretta Lynn.
When Nashville threw a party for Lear Rose, everyone showed up. Redneck women, Gretchen Wilson and Terry Clark, country rocker Steve Earle, and Kix Brooks, who said that he wasn't surprised the musical pairing had worked.
Now, you say Loretta and White Stripes together, somebody asked me, they go, man, is that weird? And I'm like, what's weird about that? You know, you could say Loretta and anybody, and it would work. You know, and there's only a handful of people, you know, Cash could do that, or Tammy, or Willie Nelson. But, I mean, you can pretty much count it on one hand to where it makes sense. And all you can do is look forward to it when you hear about her collaborating with anybody. It's just so cool. I love her. She's one of our true treasures.
Leanne Womack put it best.
I was sitting there listening to it thinking, I haven't heard music like this in years, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't even realize how long it had been since I'd heard music of that quality. And I just thought they made a remarkable record together.
That remarkable album came together in a surprisingly hasty fashion.
Every one of them songs I sung one time, and I was upset because I didn't sing them more, because I thought that I did better, and I know I could.
You sang them, he recorded them, and did the next one.
There's 4 musicians. He had 4 musicians come down from Detroit, Michigan, put them in the studio, and he told them what songs I was going to sing. I went in the studio, and they had the tracks. So I just started singing, and I went on through them one time, one song at a time. Never sung them twice.
Jack's motto was work fast and play hard, and to that end he brought in trusted friends he'd worked with before. A band named simply Blanche provided acid twang, Dirk Powell fiddled around on his banjo, and the Greenhorns lent the sessions a garage rock thump. But the truly magical ingredient was found on every page of Loretta's old songbooks.
I wish I had a year to go through every one of these notebooks, but the first 10 songs she pulled out and gave me were brilliant. We did all of them. We did 8 in the first day.
And you were worried about it?
I was kind of worried about it, because 2 or 3 of them I could have done better, you know. But the way it's selling and the way it's doing, I'm not going to complain. Jack, I'm not going to complain, honey.
The age difference between you and Loretta is what?
40 years.
40 years. Ever a problem?
No, never, never. I think that her youth inside of her and my old timer inside of me, somewhere meet in the middle.
The lady has a soul. She really has.
She's an old soul. I think we both are.
How come you?
My parents grew up in the Depression, and I think that attitude kind of permeated me, like, over and over again, that there was always something that was done a little bit better than it could be done in a modern way, you know, modern recording techniques as opposed to the way it's really supposed to be done. I think that's evident with this record. A lot of people say, oh, this sounds so real. Loretta's back to sounding real again.
Real may not have impressed the folks at the CMA Awards, but real was good enough for the folks at the Grammys, who nominated Loretta 5 times for her work on Lear Rose and awarded her 2 Grammys, one for Best Country Duet for Portland, Oregon, and one for Best Country Album for Lear Rose.
We never dreamed we'd get a Grammy, did we?
No, ma'am.
We just figured we'd go out and do a little album, sing a little bit, forget it, and it's been a hit. And we're happy.
Yes, we are.
It was a sweet comeback victory for Loretta, who'd last won a Grammy in 1971 for After the Fire Is Gone with Conway Twitty.
Me and Conway Twitty. It's great. And now it's me and Jack.
Did it ever occur to you that you'd wind up working with her?
No, no. I never, I think when we first played a song together on stage, the first time we played together was on stage, and I saw pictures of it, and I'm smiling so much, recognizing that the impossibility of someone from Detroit coming in and getting to do something like that with her. Of course I never dreamed of it, you know. I dreamed of it, of course I dreamed of it laying around dreaming of things, but I never think that would happen.
Loretta's singing partners have been a fascinating bunch, from Jack White and Conway Twitty to Frank Sinatra. And more about that when we come back.
2005 CMT Music Awards. Coming up next, only on CMT.
Every day I see how hard it is.
You sang with Sinatra?
Yes, I sang with Frank, and I thought I would die because he doesn't
sing with many people.
Yeah, right.
But Frank Sinatra wanted to sing with Loretta Lynn, and being Frank Sinatra, he wanted to do it his way. Only problem was Loretta was country and Frank was pop.
But when I did Frank Sinatra show, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be the death of me.
You were nervous?
Yeah, I was a nervous wreck. The song that he had me doing was his first record, All But Nothing at All. And I never knew it. I didn't know it. How was I supposed to know that?
All or nothing at all?
All or nothing at all. It was hard for me to hear a lot of the pop music because, well, I listened to the country music. Huh. So Frank come to see me, and I said, Frank, me and Conway's got a brand new record out right now, and it's #1 called Mississippi Woman, Louisiana Man. And I said, that old All or Nothing But All, I've never heard of it. Let's do mine and Conway's. And he looked at me, he smiled. He was very nice to me. He smiled and he said, Loretta, when you have a show called Loretta and Friends, we will do Mississippi Woman and Louisiana Man. And what could I say? But do you know what? I went through that song with him and never made a bobble.
Really?
I was scared to death.
That may be one of the few times Loretta Lynn has been scared. Mostly, she's a woman unafraid to speak her mind. She is political. Loretta has tirelessly campaigned for both Big George and Little George. As she fondly calls the two of them, she counts them both as friends.
You're a big fan of George W. Bush?
Yes.
You are a Republican born and bred?
Yes, but I really vote for the man. I voted for Jimmy Carter.
But you won't find any photos of President Jimmy Carter on Loretta's tour bus.
So, yeah, I'm for the Bushes.
She may be loyal, but she's beginning to have her doubts about some George W. Bush policies.
I understand that you wrote a song and sang a song called Dear Uncle Sam during the Vietnam years?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm. A lot of folks back then thought it was an anti-war song.
Yeah.
And I'm told that you have begun singing it more.
Yeah, I have been. I really have been. They've been hollering for it.
Well, of course they have.
Mm-hmm. It started out with Dear Uncle Sam. I know you're a busy man, but the night I write to you through tears with a trembling hand. My darling left me when he got that call from you. I know you really need him, but you don't need him like I do. But I really love my country, but I also love my man. He proudly wears the colors of the old red, white, and blue, while I wear a heartache since he left me for you.
What is it that... Why are we in Iraq?
I really don't know.
What had Little George done?
You know, I'd like to ask him that. And what made us go so fast to war? We've lost a lot of guys. If it was one of my kids, well, I'd be up there asking him now, you know, and I'm sure every mother would.
As hard as she is on the president, Loretta Lynn can be just as hard on herself.
Your biggest mistakes?
If I would have known what I know now, I don't know if I would have went into the singing business. I don't know if Duke could have talked me into it or not.
So what are you saying? That you...
I've missed out so much on... I love my family, you know, and I love babies, and I love to be with my kids, and I missed out on my twins growing up so much.
Mm-hmm.
Loretta may have some regrets about the career Dew made for her, but she is still taking his advice. He told you before he died, as long as you can, don't leave the road.
He said, Loretta, after he was gone, to not stop singing.
And she hasn't.
Well, Portland, Oregon, and slow gin fizz. If that ain't love, then tell me what is.
Jack White, for one, is amazed at her stamina.
Well, I lost my heart, it didn't take me no time. But that ain't all I lost my mind in Oregon.
She won't stop. She will not sit still for a minute. She keeps going. She's still her age now, 70, I think. Whatever she says she is, 70.
Yeah, well, look.
So she's still touring. She's still touring. It's like she makes me want to take a break. And she's telling me how, oh, God, Jack, you never sit still. I said, well, who are you talking to? Look in the mirror.
Loretta, you have an indestructible voice.
Thank you.
Same for your personality.
Bless your heart.
You live it all the way. Have a good time.
I do. I you know, when I hit that stage, I have a good time.
Because I've been in this business 140 years. We grew up together, didn't we?
Someone once said about Loretta, she may be ignorant, but she's not dumb. She knows how to take care of herself in more ways than one. And you've never smoked?
Never smoked.
You don't drink?
Don't drink. Heavens no, I can't drink.
Don't fool around?
No use fooling around. I ain't got time. I ain't got time to fool around. I've got to sing and write songs and play with my grandbabies when I come home.
You're never going to quit?
No, I'm not going to quit singing as long as I can sing.
That's the ending. My golly, you're a good-looking woman. I don't...
How many?
It's amazing. Did you have you had a lot of work done?
Never.
Oh, come on. Nothing? And I know you won't tell me how old you are, but I know you are the best-looking zip-year-old I've ever seen.
Are you all listening to this?
Yes.
Now you all take this to heart.
All right. When did you first come across a flush toilet?
Oh my God, you ain't gonna believe it. That was the day I first got to go to Paintsville. I got married, and I kept telling.
Wait a minute. You're 13 years old, and Dew took you to.
We got married, and I told him about 11 o'clock. I said, we went over at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I said, I need to go to the bathroom. I was so bashful. And so he took me to the bus station. Well, I went into the bus station. He said, no, he went around to show me where it was at. And I went in, and I looked at that thing, and I thought, wonder what that is. I thought, well, I'll try. I said, have you ever seen them toilets when you sit down on them, they flush?
Yeah.
Well, I sat down on that thing, and it flushed, and I peed all the way from all the way out of the bus depot to the Jeep.
First one you'd ever seen?
Yeah, and it scared me to death.
They're comfortable.
It wasn't then. I was embarrassed to death.